We're here behind Parliament House to launch a mobile billboard that will be travelling around Sydney and Western Sydney to encourage Barry O'Farrell to sign up to the Gonski reviews before the COAG meeting in Canberra on April 19.
It is now less than 2 weeks before the critical meeting of COAG, when Premiers and the Prime Minister come together to consider the future of our children and to consider the future of the nation. We've launched an intense campaign putting the spotlight on Barry O'Farrell, calling on him to commit to schools funding reform, calling on him to reverse the cuts to education budget, and calling on him to invest in our children and their future. 12 months ago, Barry O'Farrell said that we ignore Gonski at our peril. It is now therefore time for action. The time for talk is over, it's time for action, it's time for politics to be put aside, and it's time for this once-in-a-generation opportunity to be embraced to introduce funding reform for our children.
As we've seen over the last few months, the New South Wales State Government has been actually cutting funding to schools, the $1.7 billion cuts and thousands of positions to go. But the Gonski funding review, the formula, actually gives Mr O'Farrell an opportunity to reverse those cuts and commit to funding schools appropriately and to put the resources where they're most needed. Mr O'Farrell now can have a legacy of being a Premier who cuts funding to schools, or a Premier who signs up for a funding deal that's going to actually target resources to where it's most needed. I think it's a clear choice for Mr O'Farrell. He has to at least be known as the Premier who is committed to the children's future, and the funding formula that Gonski has put forward is the most appropriate way to do that.
He has to adhere to the recommendations of the Gonski review that identifies a broken funding system. This cannot be compounded by the state cuts that the O'Farrell government has put in place for education. They must be reversed. I work in schools with those young people that deserve and must have a quality education, that must have an investment in their education, and we must invest in the future of New South Wales and Australia.
We're in that final 2-week phase just before the COAG, the Council of Australian Governments, that are meeting in Canberra on April the 19th. Mr O'Farrell must sign the state government up along with the federal government to make sure that the funding formula is introduced and we have funding flowing into our schools. So the billboard is essentially calling on Mr O'Farrell, reverse the cuts, sign up to Gonski.